Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to look at some really important questions about democracy. For instance, should the majority always get what it wants? And what happens when a country is home to many different groups of people? To understand this, we're going to explore the story of Sri Lanka.
So let's start with our neighbor, Sri Lanka. It's a beautiful island nation just to the south of India. And just like our country, it is home to many, many different kinds of people. This diversity is really the starting point for everything we're going to discuss. So what does this diversity actually look like? Well, if you look at this chart, you can see the different social groups. The largest group, the majority, are the Sinhala speakers. They make up about 74% of the population. And the largest minority group? That would be the Tamil speakers, at about 18%.
To really get a clear picture of how this situation unfolded, we're going to walk through it step by step. We'll start by looking at Sri Lanka's society, then we will define a very important word, majoritarianism, see how it was put into practice, and finally look at the very sad consequences.
Now, this is a really important point to remember. Having different groups in a country is perfectly normal. It's not a problem. The real question is how a democracy, a country run by the people, decides to handle this diversity. That's what we're looking at today.
And it gets even more interesting. Even among the Tamil-speaking people, there were two main groups. First, the Sri Lankan Tamils, whose families were native to the country. Then there were the Indian Tamils, whose forefathers had been brought from India by the British to work on plantations. Keep this distinction in mind. It will be important later. So, Sri Lanka became independent in 1948. After that, the leaders of the majority Sinhala community, who were elected democratically, started to make certain choices. This is where the story takes a very serious turn. Let's look at the path they chose. They followed an idea called majoritarianism. Now, this is a very, very important term for our discussion today. It is the belief that the majority group in a country should be able to rule in any way it pleases, completely ignoring what the minority groups want or need. Think about that for a moment. To understand this better, let's think about your own classroom. Imagine if your teacher said that from tomorrow, we will only speak the language of the majority of students, and the school will only celebrate the festivals of that majority group. If you were not in that group, how would you feel? Would you feel like you belong? Would it feel fair?
So you see, this idea of majoritarianism is the complete opposite of what we call democratic power sharing. Power sharing means respecting everyone, including minorities in big decisions, and working together to keep the country strong and united. They are two very different paths. Okay, so we've understood the idea of majoritarianism. But what did it actually look like in real life in Sri Lanka? Let's go through the actual steps the government took to make the Sinhala community dominant. Now, this didn't happen overnight. It was a process, step by step. After independence in 1948, a series of laws and policies were introduced, one after the other, to establish this majoritarian rule. One of the first and biggest steps was in 1956. A new law was passed that made Sinhala the one and only official language. Just imagine the impact. Suddenly, the Tamil language had no official value. This made it extremely hard for Tamil speakers to get government jobs or even study in universities. And it didn't stop there. The government also brought in policies that gave special preference to Sinhala applicants when it came to getting into university or finding a government job. This directly affected the opportunities and the future of the Tamil community. So let's pause and think. What was the effect of all these laws on the Sri Lankan Tamils? As you can probably guess, it led to a growing feeling of alienation, a feeling of being pushed away. And this is where the crisis really started to build. It's not surprising, is it? The Tamil people started to feel like outsiders in their own country. They felt that the government simply did not care about their language or their culture. They felt that they were being denied their basic political rights and were being discriminated against when it came to jobs and education. And, the most dangerous result of this feeling was the complete breakdown of trust. The trust between the Sinhala and Tamil communities, which is like the glue that holds a diverse country together. It just started to crumble. This leads us to a very sad lesson from history. When a group of people peacefully ask for their rights, for fairness again and again, and they are denied every single time, it can lead to a very, very tragic end. You can see on this slide how things went from bad to worse. At first, the Tamils started political parties and peaceful struggles.
They asked for their language to be recognized and for some control over their own regions. But these demands were denied, and slowly, that lack of trust turned into anger, which then turned into conflict, and finally, into a terrible civil war. Now, we are using a very serious term here, civil war. So let's be absolutely clear what we mean. This is not a small fight. It is a violent conflict between different groups within the same country, and it becomes so intense that it is just like a war. And the cost of this war was heartbreaking. It went on for many years. Thousands and thousands of people from both the Sinhala and Tamil communities were killed. So many families had to run away and become refugees in other countries. It caused a huge setback for the entire country's progress. Everybody suffered. So, after this very tragic story, we come to the most important question. What is the lesson for us? Why do you study this case in your textbook? What are we supposed to learn from Sri Lanka's experience? Your textbook puts this story right next to the story of another country, Belgium. Now, Belgium also had different language groups and deep divisions, but their leaders chose a different path. They chose accommodation and power sharing. The result? Peace. Sri Lanka, on the other hand, chose majoritarianism and refused to share power. And the result, as we have seen, was civil war. This line here, this is the main takeaway. Please read it carefully. When a majority group tries to force its rule on everyone else and refuses to share power, it can actually destroy the unity of the country. So real democracy is about more than just winning votes. It's about respecting everyone. And so I want to leave you with this final thought. It's a question not just for your exams, but for life. What do you think is the real spirit of democracy? Is it just about the majority ruling? Or is it about creating a country where everyone, majority and minority, can live together with dignity and respect? Thank you.